Hi, I'm Ted Santos, and I am your host of Straight Talk. We are the talk show that is made for men by men, except ladies, I promise. You never want to miss our show. And why is that? Because we are the best place in the world for men to be able to speak and think and engage other men as men without ever being accused of being toxic just for being masculine. And that means, ladies, you get to hear what men really think, which can actually help you resolve some of the challenges you are facing with men, because oftentimes women have bought into the fairy tales of Snow White and Cinderella and never actually ask men what they think. So this is the best place in the world for men to be men. Straight talk. If you're not on our Facebook page, gentlemen, it's set up the same way. You get to engage other men. About 40% of the group is women. And you get to talk about life, love, relationships, social challenges. The Facebook group is, as you can imagine, 24/7. If you're not in it, connect with me, like the group, and join us on Sundays for our talk show. That is Sunday evenings at 7. So I'm almost in disguise, not completely, because I want to talk about something. As you can see, are you married to the perfect cheater? Right? How can a cheater be perfect? I'm using a play on words because I'm taking a story from The Guardian. And in this, they speak of, there's a woman who is seemingly married to the perfect husband, and she would seem to be the perfect wife, and yet she's cheating. So, gentlemen, are you married or in a relationship with a perfect cheater? And this is really an article that's How Women Cheat and Never Get Caught. So the name of the article is My Perfect Affair, How I'm Getting Away with It. And the woman who's having the affair wants to remain anonymous, except she's given her story. This is not fiction. This is a real life story. And Joanne McFadden is writing the story from this anonymous woman who's giving her an account. We can only assume everything she's saying is factual. And I'm going to read this article to you, and you'll get to hear how a woman can mastermind an affair. Very interesting to hear how a woman will actually think through having an affair and not wanting to get caught. So let's jump into this. Once again, the article is in The Guardian. I'll supply a link so you can see the article yourself. The name of it, the article, is My Perfect Affair, How I'm Getting Away with It. And subtitle is Tell No One, Put Nothing in Writing, Pay in Cash, Don't Drink, and Keep Off the Phone. How to Have an Affair for 9 years and Get Away with It. 9 years. It's a long time. Gentlemen, you're going to be surprised to hear some of this stuff. So let's get to it. It starts with the anonymous cheater saying, love and happiness are certainly important to me in my 20-year marriage to Stephen. They are also important to me in my 9-year affair with Michael. I didn't have an affair lightly. I know people have affairs for all sorts of reasons and think ultimately that they have a goal in mind. The end of the marriage, a lasting new relationship, or a complete change to what they see as a boring life. I'm none of these things. I want no drama disrupting my family. I want to stay happily married and carry on my affair, and I never ever want anyone to know. So I have every detail planned and covered. My husband doesn't suspect, my sisters and my best friends have no idea, and I make sure there's no evidence at all that can trip me up. Clever, right? I mean, and just as a side, while I'm reading this, I'm thinking of a real life situation where I was the other guy. So I'm going to share how this is not some far-fetched thing. And I'm going to share something that I've never shared publicly about how I was the other guy. And I didn't share it before because, yeah, I cheated with a woman who lived with a guy, and I never wanted this guy to get word of it. But I'm going to share this with hopes that he never hears this. So let's continue on with this article. I didn't start an affair because I'm lacking anything with Stephen, her husband. He's a brilliant dad and funny, intelligent, fit, and attractive. We've always made an effort to keep things fresh. Of course, you get bogged down in daily life, but we go out for dinner by ourselves or have a day off when we pack the kids off to school and go back to bed for a few hours. So it sounds like this is the perfect marriage. Like this guy, they both keep things fresh. Well, this guy is making all the effort. She finds him mentally attractive, physically attractive. He works out. He's ambitious. He's brilliant. He's a great dad. So what more could you ask for from a husband? It sounds like he's on top of it and doing everything right. And they even play hooky from school sometimes. And for a few hours, they're in bed. I assume they're having sex. So what could you ask for? He's not a minute man, so she's getting her sexual needs fulfilled. He's taking care of the kids, the family. There's no mention of him being not financially holding up his end as a husband and father. And yet, she's cleverly been having an affair for 9 years. So, she goes on to say, we also do a lot as a family, as well as socializing with friends and enjoying a variety of hobbies. So being organized is vital, and like many working mothers, I keep a meticulous diary to make sure everyone is in the right place at the right time. I also have a diary in my head of my times with Michael, but I never put anything in writing. No love missives, texts are about the families getting together, and any emails are work related because we work in the same field. Stephen was friends with Michael first, having met at a school event when our youngest child was just starting. He couldn't believe we, meaning her and Michael, her lover, we hadn't met professionally, and soon introduced us. He's completely different from Stephen, who is very forthright, enthusiastic, and go-getting, while Michael is dreamy and creative, but with an incisive sense of humor and very witty, so they get on well. So what better person to cheat with is a guy who is your husband's buddy, pal, and chum, right? What better guy? Sorry, my voice is not so clear now. The article goes on. I was quite shaken when I started to find Michael attractive. I'm not stupid enough to think that you can go through life fancying only one person, but I'd kept my previous little crushes firmly in my head. Stephen is quite a flirt himself, and the odd little bit of jealousy never did me any harm, intended to re-spark my interest in my husband. So think about that, right? So, okay, I got it. You can have a crush on someone else, and she seemed like she was being responsible in the past, and she kept those crushes in her head, and that was it. And she's saying something else, that her husband is somewhat of a flirt, but it sounds like he hasn't stepped out of bounds and she was there. And it sounds like what you hear from lots of women, or women actually don't admit, which is when a woman sees other women interested in a guy, all of a sudden that guy becomes very valuable. So when she sees women who are interested in her husband, it all of a sudden reignites some interest and sparks that she has for her husband. Odd, huh? So to know that you've got a good deal at home, you just have to see a few other women like your husband flirt with him, and all of a sudden it re-sparks. There's a meme I saw once that said, if women shave off their eyebrows and then paint them on the way they think they should be, it says that not even God could make a woman happy, because the way he made her was apparently not good enough. So she has to undo what was done and do it the way she thinks it should have been done. Is that what we're looking at here? So, as she said, she kept crushes in her head, except this guy who she's cheating with, Michael. She says this was different. For the first time since we got married, I could imagine myself having an affair, and at first it made me uncomfortable. At first. I started plotting how we could do it and never get found out, and almost convinced myself that I was just being academic about it. Then we all got quite drunk at a party, and Michael and I really started flirting. I thought life was going back to normal the next day, and it did, in front of Stephen and Jane. Jane is Michael's wife, so Michael's married also. But we had a completely different relationship when we were alone. We started talking dirty. At first it was just a little edgy. Do you still fancy Stephen? Is what Michael would ask her. And she would ask, do you still fancy Jane? Ever been unfaithful? Ever thought of it? It got more and more explicit, and I couldn't get him out of my mind. But I got a bad shock when he sent me a filthy text. He sent me a filthy text one night. I was sure he was drunk, and it was short but very graphic. At that point, my conscience was almost clear, as we'd done nothing but talk. So I said, "Oh my God, Stephen," to her husband. Michael's just sent me a text that's meant for Jane, his wife. So either she's had still good intentions at that time, except she explains here that she was really thinking through every kind of scenario and how to not get caught. Or she's being extremely diabolical and setting up the playing field and making it look like she's Little Miss Innocent. And making the other guy, Michael, look really innocent. He sent a text to her, the cheating woman, by accident. And she keeps her husband in the loop. And it goes on to say, Stephen, her husband, thought it was hilarious. And I texted back and said, "Isn't this for Jane?" Stephen says, "Lucky her." So it must have been pretty explicit for Stephen to say, "Wow, your wife's lucky that you want to do that." And maybe this woman is so turned on that she's really shifting gears in how to make this happen. So Stephen, her husband, teased him about it for ages. But the next time I was alone with him, she said she was furious and told him to never do something that stupid again. He said he thought I fancied him, and I said very calmly that I did. But I wouldn't risk my marriage or kids for anyone. It took another 6 months of discussion and planning before the affair started. We agreed that it was to be an added extra to an already strong friendship, but organized calmly and dispassionately so no one would suspect. By the time we slept together, we were both in a total state, and it was a complete disaster. He'd been in the first. Okay. He'd been to the first day of a conference. I arrived that afternoon and checked into the same hotel. We had 3 hours in the late afternoon till his flight home, and despite all of our talk and being calm and dispassionate, we were both unbelievably nervous. We were like two teenagers, and not in a good way. For months, I'd been totally turned on every time we were anywhere close to each other, but not now. The sex was clumsy and painful, and a couple of times I wondered what the hell I was doing. He had his own worries. It was over far too soon, and I felt dissatisfied as well as guilty, and he clearly felt the same. We had another go before he had to rush to the plane, and it was just as bad. He said he would text me, and I snapped at him not to. Had he forgotten all we agreed? Stephen phoned later, and in the midst of the chat, so her husband called her while she was at this conference in a hotel, and she said, yeah, the guy Michael popped his head in. So, think about this. She's in an affair with a guy for 9 years now, and the first time they had sex, it was clumsy, it was lousy, and even painful. And yet, somehow, she continued it. So, does this sound like the making of a woman who just kind of fell into an affair with her husband's buddy and pal? And the families actually spend time together? Or is she really that diabolical? Ladies, does this represent women in general? I want to hear your comments, guys. What do you think of this? And you definitely want to share this video so other men can hear how women will calculate how to cheat and claim that they just fell into it. Even if the sex is bad, she's still going to go after and have and continue with this. So and the guy, and she says it was quick, it was over with quickly, and here she is with a husband who she spends hours in the bed with him, playing hooky from work. So you would think that she has what she wants, but like those eyebrows, not even God can make them happy, right? And so she goes on to say, coming home the next night was hellish. She was, ultimately she's saying that she was worried that her husband would surely figure out she had sex. And she goes on and to have sex with him and thought that he would figure something out. And she says, well, just like any other time, she enjoyed sex with her husband. And he suspected nothing. Was that the catalyst to egg her on, to urge her to go on and keep doing this? So, where this happens again is she had her husband take the children somewhere, and apparently there were some other conferences that she had in common with this guy Michael. And so the cheating woman calls Jane, Michael's wife, and says that, hey, I lost some notes, I lost some things for the last conference that Michael and I were at. Can you ask Michael to bring his over? And when he arrives, she was rather eager to have sex with this guy again, pulls him into the house, pulls him into the bathroom, has sex in her own home, and then she said sex was great. She really enjoyed it. And I guess that was enough. She had to... Does this mean that she really needed to have an affair? Except she had to have it with someone who was close enough that she felt that she could keep it confidential? right? And be discreet. Another married guy who had something to lose. And she was so determined, even though the sex was bad the first time, she was so determined to have an affair that she concocts some lie to make sure she can get access to this guy again alone, and does it. And she goes on to say how to keep a good cover, she spends some time with this guy, Michael's wife. Like, she tolerates that woman because she says Michael's wife, Jane, seems to be kind of snobbish. So she doesn't have much affinity for her. And let's see. She says, I love both men. I'm harming no one and have no intention of doing so. I know we're being greedy, but it's not affecting anyone else badly. If anything, it enhances my sex life with Steven. And when you've got two men seeing you naked, you certainly keep yourself fit. I want everything to continue as it is. Whereas many people having affairs want something to change, usually other relationships, so they can be together all the time. Strange as it may seem, my biggest worry is that years on, Michael, her lover, may die first, and I won't be able to grieve properly because although the close friendship is known and taken for granted, obviously the affair isn't. In a matter of fact, we also assume that when we're much older, if our partners die, we'll end up together almost by default. So she's concerned that her lover will die first and she'll be stuck with just her husband and no one else. And she says the ideal situation is Michael's wife dies and her husband Stephen dies first, and she'll have this guy Michael all to herself and not have to sneak around. Perhaps we don't want to explore the premise that for most people it's not infidelity and love that keeps them constant to their partner, but fear of potential messiness should they be discovered. How many people, no matter how satisfied with their sex lives and happy with their partners, would say no thank you to an explosive sexual encounter that was guaranteed that they'd never be found out? Well, yeah, from the first time, that apparently that relationship wasn't sexually explosive. It was actually painful and clumsy and disappointing, except she was determined to force it. Great sex life with her husband, not enough. I don't know, is she a nymphomaniac? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think? So this reminds me, when I was younger, I met a woman. I was on a bicycle. She was walking down the street. I met her. She was 5 years older than me. And she was living with a guy. And she was from another country. She asked the guy if she could have male and female friends because she was new to the United States. And she gave me her number because she had an agreement, right? And I called. This was before the days of people having cell phones. And she and I hung out. She told me she lived with a guy. In fact, the first time I called, he actually answered. And she and I hung out. I'd take her to places. I showed her around to places that she hadn't seen before. And kind of like the story here, the conversations became edgy. She was surely physically fit. Played tennis, worked out in the gym, and we took we took a shower together. So for me, here's the way I looked at it. And once she started complaining about her boyfriend that she lived with, I saw that I took that as to be a crack, and all I had to do was quietly sit patiently, and that crack would just open up. And as the conversations became more edgy, of course, that's exactly what happened. And we took a shower. We didn't have sex, except I was pretty confident that sex was just around the corner. I just needed her to become more comfortable. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I don't think it was painful and clumsy the first time. Didn't sound bad like this, but we had sex the first time, and in her mind she said, well, if that was good, the first time is always the worst. And that's what this woman told me. So maybe that's what this woman was thinking. The first time you have sex is always the worst. It only gets better after that. So the woman I was seeing, that's what she told me. The first time is always the worst. And once you get to know one another's bodies, it gets better. So not only did I continue to hang out with her and have sex with her, eventually her boyfriend said, hey, who is this guy you're spending so much time with? I want to meet him. This guy was really a good guy. And I actually went to his house. He cooked a great dinner from his country. They were both from the same country. And I couldn't believe it was happening. I was raised to think that women were made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and women are so innocent. And I just couldn't believe that any woman could be this diabolical, that could be this malicious about having an affair and just going through with the kinds of lies. So a lot of you ladies out there say us men have been hurt by someone. I'm literally sitting in the front row watching a woman lie. And the guy actually engaging me, cooking me a great dinner. We're laughing, we're joking. There were times I would see him in the city we lived in, and we laugh and joke, and we watch girls. And I'm just thinking, like, this is unreal that this is happening. So the whole mentality I had about women being so innocent was being obliterated, because I'm actually watching a woman, and I'm actually now in the front row seeing how this actually works. So that gives me a whole different perspective on women. And this story here is not far-fetched for me, because I saw something similar. Now, I didn't become like best chums, except he definitely acknowledged and would tell her, the woman I was cheating with, hey, guess who I saw today? And she would tell me. And he said to her that he trusted me, that he thought I was never a guy who would cheat and sleep with his girl. And I was. And sort of like what this story says, she was looking for something better. So when she left him with the hopes that she would be in a relationship with me, I wouldn't even see her. She's telling me what kind of woman she is. So, the woman I was cheating with set up the playing field by telling her guy, I'm in a new country, I want to have male and female friends, and he agreed to it. So was she being cunning right from the beginning, just like this woman here was being cunning and claiming that she never intended to have an affair, but all the while this was really just a setup. So are women, ladies, I want to know, have any of you been this diabolical? Men want to know. Do you really plan things out this maliciously? Are you always this cunning about it? Is this why men are going MGTOW, red pill, black pill? Because there are guys like me who actually have seen it. And this is one relationship. Hell, I've been with a woman and then her friends. I've been with a woman and then her sister. In all the, you see this, how women can so easily lie. It doesn't mean as a man I have to have been hurt. So this was the so-called perfect woman with a perfect man. And I find it funny that she says that having two men see your body naked means that you have to be fit. So what does that say, ladies? If you're just with one guy that you claim to love, that you can actually get fat, put on weight, you can say, hey, well, I had children, or I'm older now and I'm 40, and I can get fat, except with two men seeing you naked, somehow you feel an obligation to look good for two men and not just your husband. Well, he's just my husband, except the other guy has no obligation to you. Maybe this is kind of an incentive if you think about that, right? So for a husband, you can gain weight and get fat. Well, for the guy who's not your husband and has no legal obligation to you, no legal or moral obligation, some reason you have to be fit for that guy. So she puts it as, well, there are two men, so I have to be fit for two men. But I just wonder if women feel like, because I'm married, what you gonna do about it? I'm fat, so what? You're stuck with me. And if you leave, well, you're gonna get screwed. Just because I got fat doesn't give you the right to leave, to want a divorce. Except with a guy who you want an affair with, he'll leave your ass if you get fat. So you stay fit for that. So I don't know, guys. Is another way to look at this is to allow your wife to have an affair so that she stays fit and keeps the marriage fresh? Do you see this as a benefit, letting your wife cheat? Maybe this guy Steven was also having an affair. Maybe he did smell that his wife was cheating and it worked. Maybe this was some like unspoken polyamorous relationship, and the way to keep your marriage fresh is to like a Clinton rule that he had: don't ask, don't tell. So you both are cheating, except you're taking care of your spouse, your family's taken care of, you're professional, you don't miss a beat. Is that another way to look at this? So, as a guy, if you could have this situation where your wife is actually a good sex partner, she does all the right things as a wife, and she cheats, but she does it, off-site, away from home, conferences with some guy, and she comes home, and you have your way. When she goes to a conference, you cheat, or however it happens. In the article, she mentions that she only has sex with this guy twice a month, so it's not a frequent thing. Could you tolerate this as a man? Don't ask, don't tell, as long as she's keeping it fresh. And you get to have your side piece also. So, I want to hear your thoughts about this, guys. And ladies, I want to hear some of your confessions. Be honest. Let's have a chat about this in the comments. So guys, like this video, share it. If you don't like it, hell, I want to hear it. Tell me why. Dislike it. But share it, because there are a lot of guys who don't see how diabolical that's some, maybe all women. Because this is supposedly the perfect, this is perfect. The perfect cheater. So, like the video, share it, subscribe to my channel. I'm looking to grow my channel to provide more content. I'm looking for your support. And if you're not in my Facebook group, connect with me. If you haven't called into my talk show, I encourage you. We have some very provocative topics. And until next time, my next topic, I'll see you soon. And if you have any suggestions for topics, love to hear from you. Take care. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.